because I'm always trying to remind myself that, in our cultures before the Spanish came, we were normal. Like the Babaylands, we were absolutely normal. We were leaders in the community. What people's modern perspective on queerness and our community is so rooted in colonization. And so that's where I try to have compassion, understand that they're just stuck in so much generational trauma.
Hey, what's going on? This is Jason Insight, and with my co host, Kat Serrano, you're now listening to the Future Ancestors podcast. So, we have a special guest here today. I'm just going to break it down because he has a wealth of knowledge and good works uh, throughout the whole community. So, I'm just going to break it down. Okay. Rohan Zhou-Lee is a queer, non-binary Black Asian writer and community organizer from New York City. Rohan founded the Blasian March, which was given the City of New York Public Advocate Certificate and the Community Forum Award from the National Alliance for Filipino Concerns, aka NAFCON. The Blasian March was featured in numerous major news outlets and expanded to multiple chapters across the country. Rohan continues the work writing for news outlets like Newsweek, Next Shark, Them, in addition to being an Open City Fellow at the Asian American Writers Workshop. Outside of advocacy, Rohan's work in the musical space includes being a dancer, trumpeter, and singer, featured in the off-Broadway production of Over Here, and trained in dance and music at Northwestern University, earning a degree in ethnomusicology. Now, this only touches on the extensive resume they hold. While some fight for groups, Rohan fights for humanity. So let's discover more by getting to know about our guest on this episode of Future Ancestors. Welcome, Rohan Zhou-Lee. Welcome.
Oh, Jason, that was a very sweet intro. Thank you.
You have a lot. Your resume's diesel, as the kids say. So it's like we try to do you justice, you know.
I appreciate that so much. Woo! So it's actually on my mother's side, and funnily enough, it's kind of a plot. It was kind of a plot twist. Like that I was Filipino, so my grandmother was moving into a retiring home, and so my mom and my aunt were kind of cleaning out her house, and they found this Bible that was like a family Bible, and it had like for a lot of folks in the Caribbean, because empires did not properly maintain family records and stuff. Like a lot of people had to keep their own records like in Bibles. So you see like family tree lines that literally in the Bible. I'm not Catholic anymore, so I cannot speak to people's religions. That's that. And so in the Bible, there was one of my ancestors had said Father Scotland, Mother Philippines, and that's how we knew we were Filipino. Uh, it would be that. I was
Yeah.
like,
Right.
of all places.
So speaking of that, where in the Philippines is your family from, and how was it for you growing up with different backgrounds?
You know, because of all of that trade and so much is lost, we don't know where in the Philippines my ancestors come from. So TBD, it might require a trip to Barbados. Oh no. Oh no, a trip to Barbados, that's terrible. Um, but I think growing up in a multicultural household, I think was a really good genesis for where I am today because, apart from being Filipino, I have Chinese in the background and both my parents are Black Asians. So we kind of grew up being very aware of being mixed race and we're very much taught to appreciate that. Like I was very involved even like in Asian communities growing up. So I think my childhood was very influential to where I am now. Yeah, I grew up in Georgia,
Oh.
Marietta, Marietta. I'm a Southern Belle. I mean, I'll tell people who don't know Atlanta, but people from Atlanta are like, where? I was like, Marietta. I think if I memory pop up the most, it would probably be being introduced to Black classical music, like music from like Black classical composers. Because I feel like that was kind of part of the beginnings of my like, oh, like there is genius in defiance of white society, right? Like we grow up always thinking like people of color are not capable of excelling in certain genres, certain spaces, and so to hear like William Grant Still or Florence Price was like, oh, this is Black music. This is very Black music. Like that sort of like defiance through like our joys through our craft. That was just so beautiful. So
So, kind of extending from that thought, was there a pivotal moment or a lesson from your upbringing that shaped who you are today?
I think like that in combination with my love for reading and writing, that my grandmother who had the Filipino roots, she was a Black ballerina during Jim Crow era, which now that I think more on, I'm like, that's kind of dope. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, she was dancing at the Virginia Tech College for Negroes, I think was the official term. So it's a little intense, but like I feel like putting all that together, and it definitely taught me the lesson of like being an artist of color is such an act of revolution. Being doing the crafts I love and not giving a shit about the white gaze, because no matter what happens, the white gaze will always say you're not enough. So fuck it. So yeah. Oof. So Blasian March began in 2020 during the lockdown. And of course, I had been kind of roped into a lot of East Asian organizing, particularly in the Chinese community. And so there was a point where the anti-Blackness and the anti-queerness became very, very apparent. And I could no longer participate. For me, I was kind of like in 2020, in a time period where we are still collectively mourning the murder of George Floyd, we are still organizing around the murder of George Floyd, and to be treated this way in my own community. So Blasian March for me at first was my healing process. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a march my way. I was going to focus on Black Asian solidarity. That would really uplift Black Asians like me. And that was the impetus. We started on October 11th, 2020 during fil-am History Month. Which was also, which I learned much later, where we had the first rally at Kevin Plaza, was also the originally the very first Filipino neighborhood in Brooklyn. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was torn down for a highway because white supremacy, but
Mm-hmm.
as they would to all of us. But yeah, thank you. It was also, unfortunately, the death anniversary of Jennifer Laude, a trans Filipina who was murdered by Michael Pemberton, a U.S. Marine. And so we were able to raise awareness about her, talk a little bit about transphobia, and uplift
And
both.
that dude got away.
Yo,
Like,
infuriating.
yeah,
And
I know it was insane. It was like that's another thing to unpack too.
yeah, it was so wild. I actually did a musical theater, West Side Story, in his like city, and like I was watching the documentary, and I was like, I used to walk by his house every day to work. I cannot. I cannot.
You wanted to ring the doorbell. Let
Jennifer,
me talk to you. Let me talk to you real quick.
that's like real quick.
Oh man, that must have been rough.
It
All
was.
right, so let me add because currently, and I think we can see it in social media and everything. Like you see Black and Filipino solidarity now,
Yeah.
and it's documented. There are points shared struggles between the Filipino community and the Black community since colonization. So, in what ways has the sharing of this history played a crucial role in uniting our communities since you've been doing the
Mm.
Blasian March?
Well, I definitely like to affirm that Black Filipino solidarity was the first form of Black Asian solidarity on stolen land in this country. So, to us.
Yep.
Hey, so I guess for me, it's so much of both of our communities, Black and Filipino. We have so much unlearning and relearning to do. We are so stuck in this colonial state, this white miseducation structure that erases so much of our history and thus relies on these white mythologies of segregation and auto segregation. Um, so for me, history, once we like talk about it, uncover it, unpack it, it plays almost a role of legacy. Because I especially like when coming off of the last wave of anti-Asian violence or the ongoing wave of anti-Asian violence, plus the increase in anti-Black violence, there's so much opportunity to put history into the work, and then that affirms much legacy. And I think for me, when I talk about history, it's so grounding. Like it grounds us against what we see in mainstream media that will hyper focus on specific narratives that then creates the wedge between Black and Filipino communities.
Yep. And we still see it now, and
You
it's
still see it,
hard. That's why we appreciate what you're doing with the work because it's like it was by design that we were separated, and when
right?
people don't realize this history, it's like it'll remain to keep us apart. So yeah,
Exactly,
totally
exactly.
feel you on that.
Wow. He's not it, mate.
For sure, for
Let's
sure.
do it. Ooh. Um, we've been going in so many different directions, which I find so fascinating. I think for sure I like to keep the March component of the Blasian March because that's that's that was her origin story. So um, but I am seeing us shift more and more into education justice. Um, so, like for example, we have a book fair program where we give out free books from Black and Asian writers to build solidarity, and of course, we include Native literature because we're all stolen land. Um, and like it's been blossoming. Lots of people across the country picking up on it. This is our third year, and last year we did one in Sacramento. This year we are set to do one in Los Angeles and Orlando, with an emphasis on banned books. And
Yep.
the amount of queer Asian literature that there's a handful of queer Filipino writers who are also banned. So it applies to us too. No one just talks about it because model minority myth. Meow.
Yep. Yep.
So I definitely see us moving into education. Um, I also kind of see us moving maybe more towards policy advocacy. Um, Because a lot of what Blasian March is doing, I think, is a band-aid solution to a systemic problem, right? Yeah, I love that we're doing education justice, but the fact that I'm spending hours a week fundraising, begging for money to buy books, to give them free to the community, that should not be my job. That should be the government's job, right? Like, education is a human right. Why is the government not affirming that? That's not my job. So why are we paying taxes? Yeah. You're
It just reminds me of like the teacher who has to go out of pocket to
what?
provide their own supplies for their students. It's
Yeah,
the same kind of concept, and it's sad. It's like it should be included, and
right.
they're not getting paid enough, and you're not having the funding for it. So it's like it's frustrating, but that's why we appreciate what you're doing,
But
because you're still pushing on.
you know, yeah. Yeah, yes. Yes. So we actually have a donation portal. The website's under construction, but the donation portal will be at blasianmarch.org. Um, so what we do is we do take donations from authors. We also pitch to publishing houses to donate books. And I mean, major shout out to Simon Schuster, Haymarket, Hanging Loose Press. There's so many others I'm forgetting right now, but a lot of publishing houses have actually been like, "We'll just give you books." I'm like, "Thank you."
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's like piles in my apartment. Like one pile says Los Angeles, one pile says Orlando. I'm like, that's fine. I live in an apartment.
Hey, they're going to good homes.
Exactly. So, but yes, we absolutely take donations from authors as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna shift it off here with you know a question that I actually was wondering, because it's something that we deal with in the Filipino community today.
Yeah.
Filipinos have a complicated relationship with the LGBTQIA plus community. How do you navigate the different levels of perspectives?
Well, okay. Can I swear on here? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. The bitch in me says, I don't give a fuck. Um, that is the Gabriela Silang channeling through me like, bitch,
Hmm.
don't go fuck what they're saying.
Bring that sword out.
Right? Because I'm always trying to remind myself that, in our cultures before the Spanish came, we were normal. Like the Babaylands, we were absolutely normal. We were leaders, the community. What people's modern perspective on queerness and our community is so rooted in colonization. And so that's where I try to have compassion, understand that they're just stuck in so much generational trauma. There's such a cycle of trauma. It's generations of Spanish violence, the US violence, empire in general. Um, so for me, it turns more into I'm just going to, if I'm in a Filipino community, I'm gonna dress up as Filipino and be as gay as I am. I will walk in like I was there was a conference. I was at a FONS conference, the Filipino American National Historical Society, at their conference in 2022. I was getting a presentation and walked in with a barong and like these like red spaghetti straps. I was like, whatever. I was like, don't care. Right? Like to me, it's more like it's how I can get as close as possible to honoring my queer and trans Filipino ancestors is by just living my life. Mm.
That's awesome.
Okay. Oh. Oh, that was like that. That was a challenge. I don't know, but let me think. um, I guess for me, it's multifaceted. Um, I think on one hand, it's like I love seeing people's joy take them beyond the boundaries of white supremacy. Like though we did Pride. We have an annual Pride rally to celebrate Black, Asian, and Blasian community. And last year we contracted this queer trans Korean drumming ensemble, and they started like dancing around these Black and Indo Caribbean trans people, and it was just so beautiful to be like, oh, like the capacity to create community is already there. People just needed the space to give themselves permission, which is so hard when we live in such a society that is so individualistic, it's so isolating, it's so self-segregating across communities. Um, that's really beautiful to me. I also feel like I do a lot of this work because I don't want to see another generation of Blasians go through the same shit I went through. You know, we used to have this amazing program called Blasian is Beautiful, and it was like an online affinity space for Black Asians, which discontinued because we ran out of funding. So folks got donate to us to revamp that program, which I want to bring back at some point in time. But there were three Afro-Japanese elders, and they were talking about the same anti-Asian, anti-Black violence that I've experienced. And it was really painful when they're talking about, yeah, it came from our own communities. Like the anti-Asianness came from Black people, the anti-Blackness came from Asian people. And they were talking about how it's horrible that the next generation is still going through it. So for me, it's like I want to keep this going because I want to stop that cycle, you know? Like I want us as Black and Filipino and Asian communities to abolish the boundaries between us instituted by colonization. And so hopefully the next generation, the generation after of Blasians will be properly affirmed and loved as every other human being should. Black Asians matter should be a commonplace term at this point, but it's not. It's fine. But, you know, so it's not fine. You're right. Yeah. So I just work.
No,
No,
and
thank
thank
y'all.
you for even saying that, because you know what did we used to say? And Afro Filipino. So it continues on to different forms and different ways of saying it, but it's the same spirit. But
Mhm.
yes, the cycle continues, and now trying to break that. And I think having you on here is an integral part of making that change. So
Thank you.
yes.
And thank y'all for doing
So
storytelling work. This is very, very essential work to movement work, storytelling. So y'all two are just doing amazing.
no, thank you. No, we appreciate that, and we take that, because I'm not good with compliments, but sometimes when we look back, like I hear you, and it echoes other people we've talked to, and having the same problems, the same struggles, and then we know it's not just you. So if we all come together, then there is gonna be that point where you're like, oh, we're all in the same space, and this is gonna just make our community strong. The like-minded people who
Right.
are on that same page, you know. So yes, exactly, totally agree. So speaking of that, Filipinos today are more aware of social issues. So, what's something you've observed that we can do as a collective to keep moving in the right direction?
Uh, um, I think as Filipinos, we are light years ahead where we were a couple of years ago, which is like incredible. It's incredible to see that we're having these dialogues. It's incredible to see that we are actually trying to connect the dots between our collective struggle. Um, and I think we need to keep doing that. We need to keep connecting um, between ourselves uh, across the multiple Filipino cultures. You know, and we need to connect movements to our own. So if I think about, for example, land back, and what does land back mean for the Lumad indigenous people? Or if I think about like migration justice, what does that mean for us as Filipinos in the diaspora who live in the heart of empire? How can we continuously connect and weave together our struggles, our stories? Because I feel like once we begin to make those connections, it's so much easier to see the solutions. It's so much easier to then create that collective power we need to shift um, everyone forward towards collective liberation. Like, mhm. Absolutely. I loved it. That was so beautiful. I would say one, find the community that will affirm your voice so that you can find the collective and community support you need. Um, I would also say when you are ready, be creative with how you use your voice. So, like, as an artist, I don't always have to run a rally to do my work. Like a couple of years ago, I was in Switzerland um, performing a ballet called Homage that I choreographed, and it was to pay tribute to Asian Americans killed by police. So I listed Christian Hall, Angelo Quinto, um, other Asian Americans like that, and it was a ballet. So that was a way to also their voice. Um, and when you're being creative, find ways to put your joy into that work. Because once you put your joy in it, it's really yours. Like you really, really own that moment. That peace, that power is completely yours because once again, we live in a colonial state that is very much dependent on our misery. It's dependent on us being so unhappy we don't know what to do with ourselves. It depends on us not knowing our trauma. And that's how we've been most manipulated against each other. So grounding your voice, your work, and your joy, I think, is one of those critical things to do. Yes. um, I actually do need to disconnect from my joy sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, this was joyous, this was great, but I'm tired. I need to like walk away from it all. Because yeah, sometimes the work does pull you in so far. You are lost in the movement. You're lost on the streets, and it's just like when you are so lost in that space, you need to step back and be like, okay, I need to like recharge, recalibrate, especially when you're burnt out. Um, but for me, joy takes on so many forms. I mean, obviously, my creativity is a joy. Um, I've become kind of bougie, but I do love travel. I know like, it's a privilege to travel, and I acknowledge that that's my privilege right now to travel. But thank you. I do reparations. Hello. Well, I told you the work because take care of me is also the work. well, reparations installment plan because this this empire owes me back pay with interest. But yeah, disconnecting. I do veg out over Star Wars and Star Trek. That's where like my brain is still like analyzing like a like abolitionist stand. But I'm also kind of like, you can turn off work for a little bit. Yeah. I love connecting with nature. I love walking in nature. It's so grounding just to like have that kind of like gratefulness and acceptance and generosity of the energy of the earth sometimes. Like walking through like a forest is just so like there's so much kindness in here. Like it's so simple, but yeah. Oh yeah. To me, absolutely. Oh yeah. Yeah. And like I guess for me, like spirituality for me looks like reclaiming a lot of the religions of my ancestors that were taken from me by colonization. So like it's diving into like the Chinese queer gods, diving into like Libulan Silapa, being like, oh, they were gay Filipino gods, and what is up with these people and their homophobia today? Like, girl. So, that's it's been also an affirmation. They're like, yeah, your spiritual life is very integral. It's beautiful. Thank you. Oh, let us see. So June 22nd, we have our annual Blasian Pride here in New York City. It's going to be Juneteenth themed. So y'all better, everyone should come out. We're gonna celebrate all the things, and of course, the whole family is welcome. And that's for Black Asians. That means the whole family. Um, July 26th to 28th, we have our book fair in Los Angeles. That's going to be in collaboration with Gender Heist. They are a trans, queer, abolitionist art collective. So we're doing a book fair alongside a drag band protest. So it'll be a drag show and a book band like fair combinations. That sounds so much fun. Yeah. September 14th, we also are doing a book fair in Orlando, Florida. So come on down to the South. And then I know further in the fall, we haven't found the dates yet, but we are organizing a multi-city Black Asian solidarity march to the polls. That's Blasian March. Yes. Whoa. I'm not gonna say that word. I I want the next generation. This is such an egotist. Oh god, this feels so egotistical. This question, but like the quadruple Leo in me says, "Bitch, go for it." Yeah. I would like the next generation to one remember me as that bad bitch who wore a monologue to a protest and then got with a single fuck. Um, but I also want them to take the lessons and figure out how can they abolish the boundaries of white miseducation in their own minds. I want the next generation to keep that going and to take the story of Blasian March and make it their own. And I'm seeing it already with the other chapters where I'm really proud of. Like, I mean, the fact that like the Chicago founder was also queer and Filipina, and they're Gen Z, and then um, the New Haven chapter, there's a Bangladeshi and another Black femme, and they're also Gen Z. So I love seeing that, and even like the Orlando team. A lot of people in the Orlando team are all Gen Zers, So I'm like, it's beautiful that you're taking this and you're making it your own, right? Because eventually I will stop. Eventually I have to stop. Eventually my organizing will have to evolve into a different trajectory. And for us to be sustainable, I want the next generation to take the story and write their own chapter. You know, oh, exactly. 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 True. Yeah. No. That, no. And thank you both for constantly making evidence of our existence. I mean, especially for the Filipino diaspora, we are so erased and visibilized, even like within like the complexities of Asian America. So thank y'all for making this testimony to the next generation. Oh snap! That's- okay. Oh no. No, that's me. Shit. I will. That's evil. um, can I? Well, dancing for now because that's temporary, and then writing I can do till the end of my days. So I would dancing. Oh, both shit. Oh, okay. Sorry. Ah, that's shady. That's tough. Like I feel like I can't answer this question without like my career jeopardized. Yes, and with Next Shark, what I loved writing for them was there was a very specific disruption with that article that was specifically about Filipino protests in the UN against oh gosh, what's his name? Thank you. Um, Roseanne Duterte's daughter. Oh, oh, nightmare, both of them. Yeah, they, yeah, yeah. These are hard. These are very hard. Whoa. Oh my gosh, these are horrible. Okay, so I will do a little bit of both and because I feel like speaking engagements is also organizing by a different fashion. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm I'm gonna say off Broadway because I feel like off Broadway gets a lot more experimental, whereas Broadway is still very beholden to commercialism. And sure, the checks are great, but and of course it's Broadway, like is what it is. But I feel like the the creativity breakthroughs happen not as often, and I feel like off Broadway. Yeah. All right. All right. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. 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 Oh, I'm gonna do a pro and cons of both. So West Side Story was great for me. It was amazing. Um, but I felt like structurally within the show, it's so skewed towards the white people. I find that the Jet, like the Shark Boys, the Puerto Rican boys have literally almost zero dialogue, whereas the Jets, everyone's developed. Everyone, all of them have a story. All have a name. Whereas like, who the fuck is Toro? Oh, that's my role. Who's Toro? I don't fucking know. Like, I don't have any speaking lines. Um, Lovecraft Country. I cannot stand scary things. I can't do horror, and I do absolutely love that the show literally took H.P. Lovecraft's racism and spun it. Like the fact that that man is considered a classic, but he believed that Chinese people had no souls. Like, so I appreciated that. I appreciated that I had so much more creativity with that gig. It was a lot of like improv. Like it was like, yeah, you're just a background dancer, just do your thing. Um, so yeah, I would oh, I'm gonna lean towards Lovecraft Country because I think Lovecraft Country deals more with racism in a way that actually serves people of color than West Side Story. Sorry, Bernstein, but like, girl, I've never I never saw it. I'm in a. I haven't seen myself. Everyone's like, "You're in the first episode." I was like, "I know, but like, I haven't seen it because I can't do horror." Like, like, oh, thank you.